Good, good, excellent. It's working well. All right. I'll make us a little smaller. It's a bit unnecessary to be that big. Or I can make us smaller when the thing starts. I'll put us in the middle. Oh, shit. Before it starts, I guess. All right. Yeah. Now, to the thing. Yeah. How did I do that? Send it to your messenger. Do you want to say something? Try saying something. Can you hear yourself on YouTube? Or just do it once, because I'm using earphones this time. I'm not sure whether it will affect. Okay, all right. I'll take the. You can even with the earphones. Cool. This is how it looks fine. I'll start off with like us like this. I'll just make us a bit bigger, like that or something. It'll probably load in like 4 seconds. We'll start in like a minute. And do you want to just write on the thing, like starting at 8 or something on the page? Sure. Where? Okay, above it. Alright, sure. Why do you want it above it? I'll just cover it and then I write it below my head. Yeah. Whoops. How do I get rid of this? Kind of ugly. Do it again. Do a bit lower. Yeah, that's a bit better. Alright. I will go public then. Edit. Visibility, public, done. Save. Alright, cool. Oh, I should probably move the stream to a different one. Refresh it. Oh, no, that link will always be unlisted, I think, but. Is it public now? Alright, cool. I'll see if I can view it on my phone, and hopefully that will mean. Yeah, someone else joined, so... And it wasn't me, so... Alright. Yeah. No. I decided to do methods first, and yeah. Alright. Yeah, sure. Alright. So feel free to drop questions in the chat. Yeah, and we'll answer them. So yeah, welcome everyone. I think we have 4 people at the moment. So hello to you guys. Oh, so when you like saw a really hard question, did you like you couldn't do it, and afterwards do you like stay on it for a long time, or do you like check your other answers as well? Oh, what about when you come back to it? How long are you willing to spend on it when you come back to it? Oh, shit. Then, can you guys hear Yichen now? Do you want to say something?
Yo, can you guys hear me? Just drop in the chat. I can also see the questions.
Let me play it on my phone.
All right.
Say something.
Yeah, and we'll be starting at 8 p.m. and drop any questions in the chat if you want.
I think it's the earphones that are the problem. The audio input's a bit weird. But yeah, anyway, so when you come back to the question though, and it's like, you still, like, how long are you willing to devote to a hard question? Or how much are you willing to devote to like the questions you find hard? Is that Alan?
Yeah, it is. I think it depends. If you do like a 3 or 4 mark question, and then well, it's reasonable that you spend like about, I think, 10 minutes on it if it's like really hard. But then I reckon for like, especially the last few questions on method, where it's like just 1 or 2 marks, but it's really challenging, I reckon it's more worth it to come back to the previous questions and check if they are correct first, instead of like spending, I know, the last 20 minutes on it, and then just giving up the chance to like check. Then unless you're aiming for like really, really high, like full mark in the exam 1, then I guess that's what we must be doing.
I think
if not,
you go.
If not, I think definitely coming back and check the whole exam through once is definitely worth just spending your last 20 or 30 minutes of time on the few questions.
I think my tutor said to me that like, even if you can't get the really hard questions, you'll still get like a really high 40 or like even a 50. Right? If you lose like 1 or 2 marks, then it's like, it's still no big deal.
Yeah,
but if
exactly. I think I lost like 4 marks in the end,
which is much less.
So yeah, you're for a 50, and so yeah, you can definitely, it's take that 1 or 2 marks in exam 1. I think 1 or 2, yeah.
Hello, Peter. Hello, Alan. Hello, Zach. Oh, rip. I moved the Zoom. Let me move it back.
Oh, what scores did I get for exam 1 and 2? I think for exam 1 method, I got, I full marked exam 1 method. And then for special, I think I probably dropped 2. Yeah.
My crop.
But I thought I generally did better in special. I thought special was an easy exam, but yeah, it turns out method got higher in method.
I'm just fixing the live at the moment. I accidentally cut. I can't
Yeah.
move the Zoom, I realized. This is also my first time doing this, so let me. Alright, that's better. Should be back to normal.
Peter, you want to know product rule? Yeah, sure. I can teach you that in a live Zoom.
What scores? What's some tips for English? I think that will be in the next couple of weeks. I'll be inviting another of my friends. Today is our methods. I have videos on English.
Any tips for physics? I think physics is really important. Okay, so the calculation questions are like quite easy. I think they're 8, 9, 10 standard. But then the numbers are really complicated. It's got a lot of decimal places. So make sure you use your calculator a lot, like throughout the term and throughout the year as well. But apart from that, I think the most important thing would be understanding all the concepts instead of just like rote learning it and knowing which numbers you put in. And yeah, because what really separates people in physics is the explain questions. I think that constitute to at least 30% of the mark. And yeah, so make sure you understand. Understand is number 1 priority.
Thanks, Peter.
I think we'll start in 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll just answer these questions quickly. We'll try and answer them as we go along. It'll be a little harder, but Zach, my methods and spec, I think I dropped like 4 in exam 1 and like 8 or 9 in exam 2 for both of them. I don't know who Don is. And yeah, that's how much I dropped for those 2 exams.
One tip for method. All right, you must plan your time well before you like do a lot of practice exam. Like know the time that you're likely to spend on exam 1, exam 2, especially like multiple choice and the short answer questions. Then you wouldn't be in situations like just running out of time. All right, so I think we'll get started.
Sounds good. All right,
so now we're looking at question 1.
Yeah, I mean, just generally looking at the exam as a whole, you have your formula sheet at the end. I usually rip it out and like the moment writing time starts and just have it next to me. Is there anything you wanted to say about the exam as a whole?
I think we'll just get straight into it.
Sure.
And then we can talk about specific questions. Okay, so question 1. Now, we are looking at this function. Okay, so this domain might be really important, so note that down. And also, okay, so this is 1 over 3x minus 1. First question, like every method exam 1, first question is likely to be differentiating or anti-differentiating. So this is not surprising. And for this, I would first convert this to 3x minus 1 to the power of -1 first. Okay, and then use your chain rule and power rule. You put the -1 in the front, and then drop the power by 1, decrease it by 1, and then you multiply by the derivative of the inside function, which is 3. Okay, and then you rearrange everything. Okay, so question 1 should really be quite straightforward. And now let's have a look at the finding n antiderivative of f of x. Okay, first of all, finding n antiderivatives, n antiderivative normally means you don't have to plus c. Okay, but I don't think it will take the mark off. if you put it in. I've checked the rubric, actually like the report, and this is okay. So if I do integrate f of x times dx, yeah.
And I think a way of thinking about it with an antiderivative is you're just finding one.
Yeah.
So essentially c can be 0, so you don't really need to write it.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. So for this now, if you don't have the domain as 3 to 1 to infinity, if you have it instead something like all real numbers except for 1/3, then the answer will be slightly different. Okay, so we know that we need to, it's log e 3x minus 1, and don't forget the 1/3 in the front. Okay, again, the plus C problem we have talked about. But then if, I'll add it as probably a side note, if the domain goes like this, okay, then you must remember to put the absolute value sign. This will then be, okay, so this is crucial. But without, if the domain is restricted to 1/3 to infinity, then we know that it's gonna be positive inside anyways. So the absolute value sign can, I think, in fact, must be dropped. Okay, that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the things I'll be looking at during reading time as well. Okay, note that the domain is a little bit different to the normal hyperbolic function. Okay, now question B. Now we'll be evaluating G dash with the 1 in it, and although it appears every year, but there's still quite a lot of people who just don't forget to sub the 1 in. So that's something I'll remind myself in reading time as well. Okay, so do the derivative. This one's a little bit hard using quotient rule. I think quotient rule is always the hardest. X plus 1 squared. Okay, bottom squared. You dip the top first. Cosine pi x. Okay, multiply by pi. And then multiply by bottom as well. Okay, and then you minus the derivative of the denominator, which is 1, and then multiply it by the top function. All right. Since it's really, you just want to evaluate what G-1 is, right? So you don't have to, sometimes you don't have to simplify it. You can just sub it straight in.
Just two quick questions. I'll just butt in here. If you leave the modulus in, would you lose the mark? You would, because you haven't given like the most specific answer. Because you know that it's positive, so that means you don't need the modulus there. I think first, it's more of a problem in spec because you don't really have modulus in methods anymore.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm not 100% sure if you get the mark taken off, because it doesn't really say in the report, but just be careful on that, I think.
And also with like quotient rule and deriving, I like to use the formula sheet because it's much harder to make a mistake that way. So I sort of have f dash x. I see that it's like the first one, and then g dash x is the second one, and I think that helps avoid silly mistakes.
That should be the end of question 1. Okay, so question 1 should be quite straightforward. Just make sure stuff like, okay, sub in the values for G-1, like stuff like that, and then know your rules, like product rule, quotient rule, chain rule. Then I think question 1 shouldn't be a big issue. Now let's have a look at question 2.
Yichen, I think Zach, is it? I was curious about the red part of 1A. He wanted you to explain it again. So.
Oh, okay, sure. So the red part, okay, so if you want to answer it, it's the black part, right? The red part is just for if the domain is the normal hyperbola, something like, actually, I'm not going to draw it right now. But if it's just a normal hyperbola, then that means this part can be negative, but we know log e we can't have negative in it, so we must have the modulus. Okay, but in this question, if you look at the domain, it's 1/3 to infinity, which inside 3x minus 1, you're gonna get positive answers anyways. Okay, so you don't need the modulus in this case. Okay, I hope that solves your problem. We can come back to it later if there's still questions about it. All right, I think now we can go to question 2. Okay, so now we're given another function. Okay, now it's restricted. The domain is changed a little bit from all real numbers except for 1/3. Okay, it's still 1/3x minus 1. Now we need to find the rule of f inverse. Whenever you want to find inverse, like I always like to state the domain of f and the range of f first. Okay, and it's really helpful to draw the graph. Okay, so you can like visualize better in the graph what the domain and the range are. Okay, if you look at the domain, you just copy it straight from here, all real numbers, excluding 1/3. And the range is just all real numbers, excluding 0. Okay, whether that's helpful or not, sometimes it may just be extra work and may not be required by the question, but I think it's my habit and it helps a lot the finding inverse function questions like this. Okay, and then with that, y equals 1/3x minus 1. And we want to exchange y with x.
Yeah, that's a really important step. You have to say, like, I'm swapping x with y before you do it.
Yeah.
And another thing to note is, with this question, be careful whether it says rule or whether it says function. If it's rule, you don't really need, like, in your final answer, you don't need to write it in, like, a proper full function form. You can just write what, like, f negative 1 of x equals, and that is sufficient.
I like to say the domain as well, but yeah, in this question, it's correct that you don't have to state like the full function notation. 1/3x plus 1/3. Okay, so that will be how you do this question. And the domain of f, well, we've got this up here, right? The range of f is the domain of the inverse function. Okay, so sometimes, yeah, it actually help you solving the question. All real numbers except for 0. Okay, and that's inconsistent with the rule that we found, 1/3x plus 1/3. Okay, so x can't be subbed into the function.
Sounds good.
Am I echoing a bit, Darren?
Not for me. Okay, we're echoing a bit. Let me fix this. Are we?
So do you lose a mark if you leave it in y equals? Again, that's quite borderline, right? I'm not 100% sure if you, but it's really dangerous to do that. And I don't know, it also depends on sex. Like sex, schools might have different expectations to the exam. So, okay, so check what your school wants. And I think, yeah, just leave it in F inverse.
Yeah, especially because the question asks F inverse. I would stick with answering it F inverse.
Yeah. Okay, so for the last question of, actually for the last question of question 2, so 2C, I'll provide two ways of solving this. Okay, so the first bit is more on your intuition of transformation. Okay, so if you see this transformation matrix is purely that plus CD, so it's only translation, no dilation and no reflection. Okay, so then you'll be thinking, how do I get from the original graph or original function, which is y equals this, to y equals 1 over 3x plus a third. If you look at the asymptote, it goes from 1 over 3 to 0. Okay, so what that means is it moves to the left by 1 over 3 units. Okay, translation to the left by 1 over 3 units. So what that corresponds is the value of c here will be negative 1/3 because it gets translated to the left. Okay, and also there's an upwards translation of this 1/3. Okay, the entire graph gets, if you want, pushed up by 1/3 units. And that will give us a translation in the y-axis of 1 over 3 units. Okay, that's one way of doing it. It's more on like intuition of graphs and how you visualize it. Okay, and then another way is more generic, how you are told transformations in school. So how I do it is, if you want to go from here again, this method to, okay, if you want to do it, you must label it y dash and x dash. Okay, and then we do this 3x dash equals 3x minus 1 and y dash minus a third equals 1. Okay, and then you do the rearranging. X dash equals x minus a third, y dash equals y plus a third. Okay, that will give us d equals a third straight away. And yeah, and that will give us c equals negative a third. Okay, I hope these two methods will make sense.
Yeah, with the intuition way, I think it's quite good if you can see the answer for these questions. Also, because it's 1 mark, you don't really have to explain it in detail.
Exactly. So maybe I'll draw the, okay, so I've got the graph for f up there, and I think now I'll probably draw the inverse as well. So you have the asymptote at x equals 0 and y equals a third. Just from the asymptotes, you can tell the translation straight away, and just apply that in the transformation matrix. Okay, so now let's have a look at question 3. I generally hate these probability questions because it takes ages to read. Okay, so the only possible outcomes when a coin is tossed are a head or a tail. Okay, when an unbiased coin is tossed, the probability of tossing a head is the same as the probability of tossing a tail. And that's, okay, let's keep reading. Jo has 3 coins in her pocket. 2 are unbiased and 1 is biased. When the biased coin is tossed, the probability of tossing a head is 1/3. So maybe it's good now to draw a bit of a tree diagram, or actually, would you call that?
Yeah, tree diagram.
So if an unbiased is tossed, then okay, you have head and tail. Probability of tossing a head is 1/3, and for tail will be 2/3. Okay. Just turning words into this kind of mathematical diagrams, I think is always useful because you don't want to really read comparing to looking at these diagrams. Jo randomly selects a coin from her pocket and tosses it. Find the probability that she tossed a head. Now, you must consider all possible scenarios here. So unbiased. Oh, sorry, this should be biased here. Unbiased and biased. Okay, so 1 is biased, so 1 out of 3 and 2 out of 3. Okay, unbiased, head to tail, head and tail. Half, half, 1/3, 2/3. Okay, then the probability of tossing a head would just be, okay, you count all the possible route that will give you a head. So this one and this one. If you want to write out a bit more step, that's fine as well.
Yeah, the most important thing with these probability questions is working out like how you are meant to do it. Like what type of probability is it? Is it binomial? Is it a tree diagram? Is it normal distribution?
Yeah, and I think that really comes from practice. So you have to do a lot of probability questions to know, like to tell which method you'll be using when you see the question. Okay, and it's quite a bit for a 2-mark question, I would say. And the second one, part B, find the probability that she selected an unbiased coin, given that she tossed a head. Okay, for this, if you know that it's given, then use this formula. Okay. Selected an unbiased coin, given that it's a head. Okay, so probability of head and the probability of unbiased intersection with head. So we've calculated the probability for head. Actually, I'll probably write it in 2 lines. Just maybe you can see better. So 4/9 on the denominator, and top. If you want to select an unbiased first, it's 2/3 times 1/2. Okay, solve that, and that will give you, I think, 3/4. All right.
With that formula, that's something that sort of just it has to stick in your head. I haven't done methods
Yeah.
in a while, and I still remember the formula. And I think a good way of remembering it, I think it's on the formula sheet, but also you can sort of read it as like out of the heads, like given that you've gone out of all the possibilities that you have a head, what's the possibility that it was an unbiased one first? So it kind of makes sense that probability of heads would be the denominator because it's sort of like out of that group, which ones are from an unbiased coin.
Yeah, it's important to have that intuition. I think always helps. Okay, but I think this one is pretty straightforward. The harder probability, I think, comes later. Or that's, yeah, I think the later one's a little bit harder. Okay, so question 4, solving a trig equation. Okay, like this. Now the first thing I'll do is I'll convert it to the form to cos x/2. So cosine x/2 equals half. You'll always want to, so the first step you do is always you want to convert it to this form such that it's like a trig function, and then you have some expression here, and then equaling to a constant. Okay, you don't want any coefficients in front. That's just not really helpful for your working. And the next step, so this is kind of step 1. The next step would be you to change the domain. So you have x as an element between -2 pi to pi. So now you want to find a domain for this inside expression. Okay, so x/2 would be -pi to pi on 2. Okay, remember the close brackets. Okay, and now with that domain written, you want to draw a graph, or I find the unit circle quite helpful. So -pi to pi on 2 will be from here to here. Okay, and at the same time you want cosine to be positive, which is the x to be positive. So it's these 2 quadrants. Okay, and that will give you, and also know your exact values, right? Half is, oh, actually, I've kind of done step 2 already, so change of domain. And number 3, x/2 equals pi/3 and -pi/3. Okay, note that it's not 2 pi minus pi on 3. And last step would be 2 pi/3, -2 pi/3. Okay, that's all the steps. And I find it helpful that like especially for solving trig equations and drawing graph as well, to stick to one way of doing it. It really it's gonna help you a lot, either doing exercises or stacks or exams. Okay. Because you practice it over so many times. If there wasn't a domain, how would you express it as a general solution that kind of diverge to another topic, and we can come back to it if this time. If Darren's doing it for me.
Oh no, I was gonna write something else. I have a different strategy for doing these kinds of questions. There's another way of doing it that as well. So what do? I don't set the domain at the start. So I don't sort of set the domain at this step here. Let me just make it a bit smaller. Alrighty. Yeah. So I go x over 2 equals that. I think I did both. I could do both, but this is just another way for you guys to consider. Apparently they can't hear me on the YouTube. Let me change it up.
Oh really?
Yeah. You keep going. You keep going.
And Zach, that's kind of how you'll be doing the general solutions. So plus 2k pi, and then do the rearranging.
Oh, whoops. I did it. Yeah.
I think Darren's come to run on the board, so maybe that's fine. Yeah, no, here if you have ks1 or ks-1, it's gonna go outside the boundary for x. So that's why you can't really allow it. Yeah, like plotting 4 pi or negative or minus 4 pi, that's way out of the range, the domain for negative 2 pi to pi. So we can't have that. Yep. Yeah, I think that would be a good way of solving it. So which values of k to try? So you want to test the value of k from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, but normally you can solve after like 1 and a maximum of 2. As long as it goes outside the domain, then I'll always start at 0 and go increment 1 by 1 until you're out of the domain. Yeah, but normally you're probably just gonna get like 3 or 4 solutions at maximum. So you wouldn't need to try that many k's. And also don't forget k equals -1, -2, and so on.
Yeah, cool. Keep going. Apparently they can't hear me that well. I'm just trying to fix that. You keep going.
Oh, okay. So that's good. Question B. Yeah. Okay, now we are given f of x equals cosine of x over 2 on the axis. Now we need to draw gx, sketch the graph of g. So here's like a little working space for us. G of x is 1 minus cosine x over 2. So we know that is exactly the top, okay? The left-hand side of the equation that we solved in part A. But if you just want to sketch it in, again, there's kind of 2 ways of doing it. You can think of it as a transformation. Okay, so first is reflected in the x-axis. So it goes to here. And then the +1 or the 1 there just shifts everything up by 1 unit. Maybe this one should be. Yeah, it's really hard to draw on these tablets. And yeah, that's how you would get graph. But if you're not confident with the transformation method, you can also just essentially just test the point out. You look at g negative 2 pi. Okay, what that after calculation you're gonna see that equals 2, and then g negative pi equals 1, g 0 equals 0, and g pi equals 1, and then you can really just connect these points together, and that will give you the graph as well. Okay, but that's just the first sentence. Label all the points of inflection. Okay, you have to label this and know that it's just the value that we calculated in part 1, and that. I think it's probably easier if I sub it into f. Negative 2 pi over 3.
I'm just checking if my volume's working.
Okay, that would equal half. And also this 2 pi over 3. F 2 pi over 3. That's gonna give me cosine pi over 3, and that's half as well. Okay, and also, does it ask for the endpoints? I don't think it does, right? The points of, it does, and the endpoints of G, which we've kind of calculated beforehand. Negative 2 pi to pi 1, and the intercept 0, 0.
Yeah, wait, let me just see if my volume's working. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just listening to myself.
Okay, but
it is working. All right, cool. Yeah.
All right, I think it's not that easy for this one. Yeah, especially you have to not just do the question, but also meet all the requirements of labeling intersection. Like if you're not careful, or if you don't pay attention to these things throughout the year, then it's likely that, and also with coordinates, not just like one, like labeling negative 2 pi over 3 here, that's not enough. Okay, it must be coordinate.
Yeah, just with this, sorry, just with A, I didn't finish talking because my mic cut out. But yeah, so you add 2k pi because that's like the general solution. And then I times everything by 2s because you just want x as your answer. And then you shove in different values of k. And once for this one, say you get an answer that's bigger than the domain, then you know like time to stop. If you get bigger than domain, time to stop, smaller than domain, time to stop. So you just test values of k. And also just want to add with this question, afterwards I would sort of tick off things. So intersection tick, endpoints tick, coordinates tick, to check that I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, that's quite important as well. Okay, and another thing, if you're not confident about this question, then I'll probably put an asterisk on it. If you're to show that, okay, I need to come back and check this question. But if not, let's go to question 5 then. Okay, another function. So method until probability is probably all function and calculus together. Evaluate f negative 1. Okay, so that equals negative 1 minus 1 squared plus 1. And that's gonna give me 2 over 4 plus 1 equals 2/3. And again, if you're not that confident with arithmetic, just do more steps, right? And for question 2, the graphing, if anyone was asking about graphing, here's sort of I would do generally for graphs. The first thing you do is always asymptotes, if it has any. Okay, for this one, we know that's a truncus, so it would have a vertical asymptotes here. So the way we think about it is, as the denominator approaches 0, the value of y would approach infinity. Okay, so that's kind of the definition of asymptote, really. So by the way, asymptotes can actually be crossed. So it's not that they'll never be crossed. It's possible that something like this can occur. Okay, but normally not in method. But this is like one of the common misconceptions of asymptotes. Okay. After you got the asymptotes, next thing you do, you'll be finding the intercepts. It's subbing f of x, and here you can really tell that it doesn't have any axis intercepts, right? So all you need to do is sub f sub 0 into the function 2/1 plus 1. That will give you 3. Okay, and you mark that point there, and make sure it's symmetrical. They actually look at this thing quite a lot. Okay, something to note: if your curve curves backwards, that's a bit too obvious, but if it curves backwards like this, that's it's likely that you're gonna get marks taken off, and also on the top, something like that. Okay, make sure you draw with care. So 3, and I like to label y equals f of x onto the exam paper.
Yeah, with graph questions, I reread the question as well because they always get you to label some things occasionally.
Yeah.
And
like
also,
asymptotes, intercepts, everything.
Yeah, and whenever you're unsure about whether your graph is right, you can just sub in values, and that is usually a good check. Because like if you sub in 3 and it's round about 2, your answer here, then you know like it's very unlikely you've drawn the wrong graph.
Yeah, and make sure. Sometimes intercepts can be used to check. Okay, if this graph should be maybe if you're not sure. Okay, you think it's this, right? And after you calculate the asymptote, that's 0.3. So checking that if your answer is reasonable is also a really good tip I will give you, and it's quite helpful as well. Okay. Now, question B. Find the area bounded by the graph of f, the x-axis, the line x equals -1, and the line x equals 0. Okay, some students might come back and annotate the previous graph. Okay, if you do that, make sure you rub out everything that you annotate in the end, because if you don't, then it will be counted towards as maybe part of the graph. Okay, maybe you draw a line here, doesn't really mean anything, and the examiner will just take it as maybe your asymptotes or I don't know. But yeah, another thing with area is that it's if you use integration, it calculates net sine area. So you want to check if there's any area below the x-axis, something like that. But it looks like here that area would be just here. Okay, and of course I will be rubbing that out after I finish the question, and then you can go with integration. So the area.
Yeah, or you can just draw the graph
-1.
In the bottom as well and sort of highlight that area.
But sometimes, you might not have space for it because integration takes quite a bit of space. F of x. Okay, and this is... Okay, when you do this, you want to convert it to power form. That's probably better to understand and for your calculation as well. Now that becomes -2 x minus 1 to the power of -1. Okay, so the -1 comes down and cancels the negative sign in the front, and then it drops to -2, and the +1 will become x, and you sub it in. Okay, this one's not easy. Like subbing, it's got a lot of different negatives, pluses, fractions, and like that. So really slow down and write a bit more steps. And minus. Okay, do a big bracket here to show that, okay, this is where I sub in the -1. Now make it a bit better. Okay, should you use pencil for graphs? Okay, this is something I want to talk about. For every method or math related exam, I will recommend you to use a pencil because you can rub it out. Okay, whether it's not just graphing, right? Answering questions, like everything, doing your exercises throughout the year, I would recommend using a pencil.
I think there's been a recent thing how VCAS says you guys should use a pen, and there's been debate about that. But there's nothing wrong with using a pencil. They don't penalize you for it. And
yeah.
It's like I think the stress you get from using a pen, I felt a bit stressed because you can't really make a mistake, um, is far greater than if I just used a pencil, it would be much easier.
Yeah. Okay, and here's the answer. You don't really need the unit squared. That's again one of my habit. But this should be okay. Now, when you do like more than, I don't know, 5 lines of working, it's very it's possible that you might uh, make a mistake, some arithmetic, maybe some negative signs that you've neglected in the process. So I would recommend you put an asterisk here and come back to check it, because if you do it again, you might just look at the answer and say, okay, I'm getting that same answer. And so come back if you have time. This is something that you can put, I know, a sign next to it. All right, on to question 6.
Just with that question, mentally I do
Yeah.
something slightly different to each hand. So at this point, I write this.
Oh, by the way, one more thing. Rub out the annotation in the previous question, right?
So I would write this.
Really important.
And then when I'm sort of subbing it in, I would think to myself, okay, I sub in 0. What do I get in the bottom? -1. And then I get 2. And then that becomes 0. So I get, like, I'd write, then I'd have essentially like 2 plus 0. So there's a line of working here, and then 2 plus 0 for that first one. And then minus, and then I'd think about -1 goes into x. Like, I'd be like saying that in my head, or even mouthing it with my mouth. Because I found that way was better for me in terms of not making silly mistakes. But also, like Yichen's way, writing it out might work better for you guys. So just 2 ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like do a lot of calculations in your head, okay, that can make it a bit faster. But if you're not really comfortable with it, you see, I like to write a lot of steps, and it's like 6 here, 7, okay. But around, I don't know, 2 months, it should really be like just, I don't know, 3-4 lines of working. But this is something to make sure. Like, method is all about not making mistakes, right? Something that I hope you guys can maybe learn from, and write more workings. I think that would really help. All right, so now let's go to question 6.
Just last thing with the pen pencil thing. I think my special tutor told me the main issue that people have with using a pencil is once you've written with a pencil and then you close your page on it, it smudges. You guys can sort of try that at home, and it smudges. That's the only danger there. And you can sort of get around that by putting your formula sheet in between. Like, when you've written something, you move on to the next page, you flip it over, and it might sometimes cause your pencil to blur. You can put a sheet in between, like your formula sheet, but usually it doesn't happen as well. So I don't think it's a real concern. You can sort of check over it at the end of the exam.
If you run out of working space, Darren, do you have a solution to that? Because I'll just rub it out. But okay, sometimes your exam paper can get messy. All right, I think, just cross it out, write it on the side, write your font a bit smaller. Yeah, I did go to Scotch as well.
Yeah, worst case scenario. So after you've made that mess, I would suggest like sort of calming down and saying to yourself, like, what exact steps do I need to do? And can I fit this in this space? Sort of worst scenario, you can do like an asterisk and circle it and maybe write like refer to back of exam or something, and then find a place where there is space and write it. But I think there's space at the bottom of the exam. Oh no, there isn't. I think it's just the photocopy. Is there?
Oh, I don't know if you can, like, I think there is, but I'm not sure if you're allowed to like write there, right in that space.
Oh, okay. Maybe
you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just find anywhere that there's space and just do like an asterisk and a circle and write like refer to wherever the space is, like page 8 or page 9 or something.
Mm-hmm. All right. Question.
Yeah, Yichen
so
went to
now
Scotch.
I think we can move.
Yichen went to Scotch. Someone asked.
Oh, so question 6. What is the proportion of faulty pegs? Okay, so Fred, again, I don't really like these questions where you have a context, but something that will come up in the exam. So Fred owns a company that produces thousands of pegs each day. Okay, that's kind of useless, right? He randomly selects 41 pegs that are produced on one day and finds 8 faulty pegs. What is the proportion of faulty pegs in the sample? Okay, so that's just proportion equals 8 over 41.
I'll write P or P hat, I think, because it's in a sample, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess should be a p hat. Now, pegs. Oh, question B. Pegs are pegged each day in boxes. Each box holds 12 pegs. Okay. So maybe you can visualize some box in your head, and then they all have 12. Each of them has 12 pegs in it. That capital P hat be the random variable that represents the proportion of 40 pegs in a box. So you know that's something to do about something and estimating proportion, maybe something like that. The actual proportion, so this is just P, right? Equals 1/6. Of 40 pegs produced by the company each day is 1/6. So that's the real proportion. Find probability of P hat less than 1/6. Express your answer in this form. Okay, where A and B are positive rational numbers and N is a positive integer. Now, whenever you want to calculate something like this, you must convert it back to binomial. Okay, so remember this formula. It's like every time is P hat equals X over N, where N is the sample size, and X here is the binomial variable.
Also, with this question, the moment you see like something A like B and then to the power of N, you should kind of think binomial, even if you don't like know why it's binomial. You should have that thought in your mind.
Okay, you don't have to write this out necessarily, but it's just maybe it's clearer. Of number of pegs in the box, in a box. Okay, and this is what you really should be writing. 12, 1/6. Okay, it has a number of 12 in each box, and the probability of every peg being 40 is 1/6. Okay, and in that case, it's like saying, or the original probability of P less than 1/6, P hat less than 1/6, that can be converted to X over N less than 1/6. And we know that N is 12, right? So X is less than 2. Okay, now if we have a cast, we'd be using our cast to do the question, right? But unfortunately, we're not. So now we have to think about all the possible cases. So X equals 0 and X equals 1. And that would be just probably write a formula here. Probability of X equals K. That would be N choose K. Okay. Now the probability of success and the probability of fail. Okay, and N choose K. That's N factorial over K factorial over N minus K factorial. Okay, but intuitively for X equals 0, that's not that hard to think about, right? It's just every peg is not 40, so that will be 5/6 to the power of 12. Okay, that I'll just use intuition to solve it. Plus probability of X equals 1. Well, subbing the formula in, that will be 12, choose 1. Okay, so the probability of success here is defined as being 40, right? And now it will be 1/6 times 5/6 to the power of 11. And that would evaluate 12 choose 1, evaluate to 12. 12 over 6, sorry. Times 5/6 to the power of 11. Okay? And then you can take the 5/6 to the power of 11 out and would arrive at your solution. It looks quite convincing, right? They are all, first of all, this and this, they're all rational numbers. And the N here is a positive integer as well. So maybe that's a sign that, okay, this is correct. Okay, I probably wouldn't come back to check. I'll have a look in my steps of working and see if I make any arithmetic mistake. But that will normally mean your answer is correct.
Yeah, I think a couple of things I'll just point out here. With probability, I think a lot of it that can help you remember things is just thinking about it and like why it's correct. So like Yichen said, with x equals 0, there's only one possibility, so you wouldn't need to multiply anything in the front. And the possibility is that all of them are, I forgot, is it faulty or 5
faulty.
Oh, not faulty. 5 out of 6 is not faulty. Yeah. So 12 are faulty ones. And similarly for the next one, you feel like there's one of them that is faulty, and so you have 12 possible pegs, so you'd multiply it by 12. And also with the x on n part, for me, I thought about it as like proportion less than 1 on 6. What does that mean? So if I had 20 things, it would mean less than
3.
Yeah. So you
less than 4.
Converting the proportion to a number. That's how I thought about it.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I'll answer a couple of questions in the chat. So what topics did I find most difficult? I think for method, all the topics I dislike probability. I think calculus is alright, and the function is like basic. But the real hard part about the entire method course, I think, is the exam. Exam's definitely not easy. I should do a lot of practice on it. Method is more difficult than special. Is that true? Okay. When I did it last year, I felt the same thing, right? Method is quite hard, and I actually thought it was harder than the special paper. So the exam, it's definitely not that, okay, method is easier than special now. But I know some people might find special easier even, but it really depends.
For me,
just do an act.
Pardon? Yeah, I'm figuring it out. Anyway, I don't think it's that bad because I was listening to it before. But what was it? So most difficult topic for me was probably population and proportions. So I did it in year 11 and year 12, but in year 11 they still had population proportions. I found that hard because it was a bit weird. I don't think it was really like tied into anything else in methods. And in terms of methods, more difficult than special. I thought methods was more difficult. I think special is more direct. Like you kind of know what you're gonna get with special.
Yeah, every question is sort of the same every year. I think if you know the trick, then you'll be able to solve it. But let's move on to question 7. Okay, I reckon from question 7 onwards, it's getting the difficulty level is rising by a lot. Okay, so find an expression for the length PB in terms of x only. Now, PB, I'll probably use the PB equals y minus 0, and that equals y minus x squared. It's not too hard in this one. But the second one, find the maximum area of the triangle. Okay, first of all, we need to come up with a function that describes the area. And that would be half times the base times the height. Okay. Now, I think the very, very important thing is you must, or I would, state the domain here and check if the endpoints are, or you can take the endpoints or not. In here, like in this case, the endpoints are -1 and 1. And if you put B in those positions, you're gonna get 0 area. And that's definitely not the maximum area we're looking for, right? We can really just discard it and say -1 to 1. Because when we're finding absolute maximum and absolute minimum, we will be comparing all the turning points and the endpoints as well at the same time. And the fact that we've eliminated -1 and 1 sort of that helps us, so we don't need to compare that anymore. So we'll be only looking at the turning point would be sufficient. Okay, so now let's have a look at the derivative. A dash x. Now this is again not easy. Differentiate the first one, you get half square root 1 minus x squared plus, okay, now we're differentiating this, which is, again, not that easy, right? So if you're not confident of doing it one step, just write this and maybe converting it to power form. Okay, and leave that to the next step, and that'll make you make your working quite a lot easier. Times half times x plus 1. Okay, and now the next step, you'll be just focusing on this part. Okay, maybe you want to write this in front. Okay, so you can leave the entire bracket to the derivative of square root 1 minus x squared half 1 minus x squared negative half negative 2x. Okay. So up to this point, I might think, okay, this is something I need to come back and check. So put an asterisk next to the question. Half square root 1 minus x squared.
Is my sound working? Sorry, I'm just saying a couple words. You keep going, my bad.
Oh, okay, sure. All good. What is this? Okay, so negative in front. Square root 1 minus x squared and x on top. Okay, so I want that to equal 0. I'll probably write one more step. Minus x plus 1 to 1 minus square root of x equal to 0. Quite a lot of laboring. We can cancel the 2 out. Okay, so factorize the half out of the equation because, well, we can cancel that. And moving half of it to the other side. Okay, now we multiply this over to here, but the only reason that we can do it because we have specified the domain as between -1 to 1. Okay, otherwise we probably wouldn't do that if we hadn't. So that's why the domain is really important. Okay, so -1, that'll give me 2x minus 1 and x plus 1. Okay, so then that will be x. So you have two solutions, x equals half or x equals -1. And we know from our domain, so now again, shows how important this step of stating the domain is. We know that this is outside our domain, so we don't really take it. And since there's only one stationary or turning point here, so we can really just assume that this is our maximum area. And probably one of the all-time mistake is that the question asks for maximum area, not the value of the x that gives the maximum area. So subbing it in, you must do that extra step to find the area. And that equals 3/2 times half. 1 minus 1/4. So that's 3/√3, 3 times √3/8 unit squared. I'm running out of space a bit, but you can use this space and say, okay, do your work in there. That's fine as well.
Yeah, once again, this kind of proves why pencil is much safer, I think. And also, I think there were a couple of questions in the chat regarding this question in particular.
So do you have to prove that? It's a good question. Do you have to prove that if it is a local maximum or it's safe to assume it is? I would say, okay, if you want to be absolutely safe, then yeah, you should prove whether using the gradient table or the double derivative. But in this case, really, like, look at how long the working is. I don't think you can kind of assume that it is just the local maximum. Okay, but only in this case though.
Yeah, I think there's
because otherwise there's really no other way of finding the local maximum then, because the endpoints are not really valid. for the part you're doing right now, if you don't specify, no, so you don't lose a mark for -1 to 1 if you don't state it, but I'm just stressing of how important it is, -1 to 1. Why is the -1 and 1 not included in the domain? Okay, so if you look at the graph, right? Okay, again, like you can include it in the domain if you want, but that's just gonna give us a straight line like this. Right? I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Whether at and at -1, you're just gonna get a point. Okay, there's no point there when you're finding the maximum area. Okay, if you put -1 on 1, it's just gonna get 0, so don't really have to compare. I hope that answers the question for the domain.
Vicky asked us what we're studying at uni. So I'm studying medicine at Monash.
I do data science. I want to do data science at Melbourne, but you don't have to pick it in first year. Right now, I'm just doing a combination of math and physics and some commerce subjects. But yeah. Now on to question 8.
As the last question in the chat, and then the last one.
How many past papers did I do? If you're talking about sets, probably, I'd say, I don't know, 20, 25. Probably a bit more than that. Actually, yeah, 25 is a good number. But I don't personally see doing like 60 sets of papers the most useful method. But obviously, some people might find it helpful. But I think it's important to analyze, especially the VCAL papers after you finish. Don't just like throw it. Like look at the questions that have gone wrong. Look at if you made the same mistake as you did in the last exam, and that would really like make your mark boost up.
Yeah, I completely agree with Yichen's point. For me, I did all the VCAL ones plus maybe like 6 or 7 non-VCAL ones, but I completely agree with his point to to learn from each of your exams, because say you are able to learn from every single mistake you've made in your exam and are able to like minimize the chance of making them again, then it's highly unlikely you'll make like a ton of mistakes in your actual exam as well. So as long as you get a little bit better each exam, it's really useful.
Exactly. So for example, if you like integrate something like this in an exam and then you forgot to add the modulus, say, okay, and you got a mark taken off, well, next time you need to know that and like and right in the front of a cover page say, okay, I didn't put the modulus sign here. I need to do that the next time if I see it. And in that way, you have to like the mistakes out where you learn your thing from, right? Okay, so what will you average on practice exams? It really depends. If I'm doing the company papers, I lose quite a lot, like maximum probably 15 to 20. And the VCAL ones are generally easier, probably 3 to 5. Okay, from the 15s, like the more recent it is, the more helpful it is.
Yeah, I didn't make a ton of mistakes on the non-VCAL, on the VCAL ones as well. I made a lot more in the actual exam. Like I was doing much better in my practice exams than I did in my actual one. But in my in my non-VCAL exams, I didn't really count my mistakes that much because I don't think they're that reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm thinking of getting Gordon in for a spesh, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Question 8. So, okay. Now we're looking at this graph. I think it's the second last question. Right? Yeah. So we've made quite a bit of progress. The function f. Okay. Not the domain. This is question 8 and 9 is probably one of that. The questions that people who took this find it quite challenging. The function f from R to R, where f of x is a polynomial of degree 4, so quadratic. Part of the graph of f is shown below. The graph of f touches the x-axis at the origin. Now, if I want to find the rule for f, okay, so in this situation, you always look at the intercepts. -1, 1, and 0. And because 0 here, I always remember it as, okay, if it looks like sort of a parabola when you zoom in on that space, then it's a squared. Okay, x squared, x plus 1, and x minus 1. And don't forget to add the coefficient of a in it, which is just a random constant. And in this question, particularly, it's good to do one more step of that. And then you need to find a. So you sub -1/2 in, and that's a times half, and half minus 1. Okay, so from intuition, right, this sort of curves downwards. Okay, so the value of a that you find should be a negative number. And you can use that to check if your answer you got is correct or not. And that should equal 1, I think. All right. Okay, and a here will be -4. So don't forget to state f of x in the end. -4 x squared minus 1. All right. So that was quite a lot, in fact, for a 1 mark question. Should be, in my opinion, should probably be 2. Now, this is one of the questions that a lot of the people struggle when they do the exam. So we need to find the domain, the maximal domain of H, okay, which is its rule stated here. I'll first of all convert it, like put the gx in, -4 x squared minus 1 minus log e x squared x plus 1. Okay, we know that for log, we want anything that's put inside this, okay, to be greater than 0. Okay, not equal to 0. We want it to be greater than 0. And for this greater than 0, we can just look at the graph, right? X from -1 to 1. Okay, excluding 0. This is really, really important. Excluding 0. And the second bracket, second expression, okay, you want this to be greater than 0. Well, since, okay, so of course, again, x can't equal 0, right? And for this, you just want x plus 1 to be greater than 0, because x squared would be always greater than or equal to 0 as long as you exclude that 1 point. So here it's just x is greater than -1, okay? And x can't equal 0. And you take the intersection. Now, maybe it's easier to see if I draw a number line here. You have 0 here, -1, and 1. So this line represents the domain for this, and the domain for second one will be like this. Okay, you want to take the intersection. So domain is, well, maybe you can write the equal sign, I think. -1 to 1, excluding 0. Okay, so that's how, especially for, if you want to find the domain for the log, just make whatever is inside the bracket, okay, make that expression equal to 0 and then solve it.
Yeah, this question is not really a 1 mark question, but VK just made it 1 mark.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I think I pretty sure I had trouble with this question because I combined the logs, and that makes it more harder to do things because you don't really know whether you can cancel, and it just made things harder. So I think a way to avoid that, reflecting back, is probably to, at each step, see whether you can sort of find the domain. So at this first initial step, you already see that you have its subtraction of 2 functions or whatever kind of graphs they are. So you can kind of do that intersection thing that Yichen did already. So it's good to have multiple ways. So if one way is too hard, you have another way to fall back on.
Yeah. And actually, so there's a question for VK exams, what year did you start from? So I think I started 10 years back, which is 2009, in fact. Okay, about 10 years is now, you don't need to go that far ahead. But make sure you use that 10 years of exam paper well. Okay.
For me, I just did all the
And yeah.
VCAR ones. So I think that's from 2006. And for Spesh, my teacher had some older ones as well. But I just prefer to do the VCAR ones a lot more than like company ones.
Yeah. Like if you just go too much way ahead, then there might be some questions that's not in the course design. Like it changes over time. So yeah, I reckon more recent ones are more helpful, but definitely you can do the ahead of 2010s paper. All right, so now let's get to question part C of question 8. State the range of H. All right, so now let's state the entire equation of H. The thing about combining logs is that if your domain, again, talking about domain again, if your domain is not specified, then it's really dangerous. Like if you combine anything or cancel anything. But with this in mind, then you can basically do whatever you want. Okay, as long as it's a valid operation, because you're not really constrained by anything. -4 x squared minus 1. Okay, x squared, x plus 1. Okay, you cancel the x squared, and then you can also cancel the x plus 1. And then you're left with -4x plus 4. Okay, and personally, when I did this question, I draw the graph. Okay, so just draw everything out first now, and then we'll worry about domain later. And it has an intercept here at x equals 1. Okay, and the graph would go something like this. Okay. Again, I'll reiterate, I'm not looking at the domain right now. Focus on that later. And if we look, we can only go from -1 to 1 excluding 0, right? So this point would be an open circle. Okay, and it goes up to -1. And everything else you can really take. Okay. That's this is all the values that you can take. And well, our job is just to find these 2 points when we sub the -1 and 0 into it. So H0 will be log A4, and H, I think it's -1, will be log A8. Okay, so the range of H is from -infinity to log E8. First of all, know that it's open circle, open bracket, I mean. Then excluding the value of log E4, which I think a lot of the people omit looking at the report. All right.
Yeah, and just with that, you can kind of see the problem with what I did in the previous question by mistake, which was to combine them from the start. Because then you see when you just get log e of -4x plus 4, the domain restriction is much different from if you did the intersection of the 2 domains. Because just looking at that, you can't tell that there's like just looking at log e of -4x plus 4, you can't tell that there are points where it doesn't exist.
Yeah, so I lost 4 marks overall on the method exam. And that I think really is borderline 50. So I got a bit lucky there. Okay, I think that's question 8 is a hard one, but question 9. Let's move to question 9, the last question, and the last question here.
I think 1% of people got the last question of question 8 right.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a good question to look through. All right, so question 9, state the rule. Okay, that's should be straightforward. Yeah, and then again, if you stuck on question 8 for like 10 to 20 minutes, right? You don't have time for question 9. Then you really miss out this free mark. Okay, stating this rule, which I think a lot of you can do. So make sure you spend your time well and don't just stuck on one question that you can't do.
Especially if you're
All
not
right, state
aiming.
the
Sorry, especially if you're not aiming for like a 50 or like a high 40s. You know, it's much
Yeah.
more worthwhile for you to get the easy marks.
Yeah, exactly. At least to get all the easy marks first, and then you worry about maybe the hard bits. I full marked exam 1 and I lost 4 on exam 2. Find the values of x for which the derivative of g f of x is negative. Okay, so notationally, I think you have to write this. This is, I think, the correct one. This is not necessary. I don't think it's correct. Okay, this is not the derivative of g of f of x. Okay, so if I want to dip that, I'll be using chain rule. So derivative of the inside function 2 minus 2x times e to the power of 3 plus 2x minus x squared. Okay, and I want that to be negative. So negative doesn't include 0, just less than 0. And we know that this part is always greater than 0. Okay, so I just need the 2 minus 2x to be less than 0. And that's simple solving. X is greater than 1. That's all you need to state. And okay, I'll say one more thing here. Sometimes when you find in the domain for this, it's possible that they'll give you an upper limit, so an upper bound. Maybe, I don't know, state up here like x is less than 20 or something. If they do that, make sure you add that limit. Okay, x is between 20 and 1, just in case if they said something extra, okay, about the domain. So keep a note on that. Okay, state the rule of f of g of x. Yeah, again, it's like free mark. So if you spend too much time on question A, then you're really just missing out that mark if you don't run out of time in the exam. Okay, so f of g of x, sub it in 3 plus 2 times e to the power of x minus, okay, so this is, again, a common mistake. Some people might write e to the power of x to the power of 2. Now, I want to solve f of g of x equal to 0. So you can do is you can factorize straight from it, and I like to have the term in the power of 2 term in the front. Okay, you can do this, or minus 3 plus 1, I think. You can do this, or you can also, which is, I think is what a lot of people do, that m just create a constant and let it equal e to the power of x. Okay, and that's a better looking quadratic term, quadratic expression that you can factorize. But it depends, because for this one, again, like domain issues, right? You want m to be greater than 0. That's very, very important. You have to discard any values of m that's less than 0. Okay, and then you do your thing, you should get m minus 3 and plus 1. m1 equals 3 and m2 equals negative 1. And you know from the domain that you have to exclude this one. Okay, I think this is also what a lot of people don't do. And keep solving. X equals log e3. That's the only answer, because that's undefined.
Remember for m to actually sub back in e to the x. I have forgotten in the past, I think, to sub it back in.
So you don't end there. You have to keep solving for the x, for x. All right. Now,
last two.
Question E. Yeah. Find the coordinates of the stationary point of the graph f of g of x. All right, that's okay. So now it's good to copy the. Actually, I'll copy all the equations that we have into this page.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
And this is something I recommend you to do as well in the exam, so you don't get confused and have to flip between pages, and that will just increase your rate or chance of making mistakes. All right, so I want to derive this, so don't derive the wrong thing. F O G 2ex minus 2 e to the power of 2x. Okay, and that equals to 0. And I can factorize out the e to the power of x and divided by 0 because it's always greater than 0. So I can do that. But if you get something like x or x squared, you can't divide it, right? Because you have the chance of missing out on solutions. All right, so 2 minus 2 to the power of ex, 2 times 2 e to the power of x equals 0, and 1 equals e to the power of x, and x equals 0. So this is kind of important. And another thing, it asks you to find the coordinates, not the value of the x, the value of x. And make sure you sub 0 into the function.
And the
3
reason
plus.
Yichen can divide by e to the x is that you know e to the x can never be 0. So you're not losing
Yeah.
any solutions from doing that.
So 0, 4. Okay, you have to write it in that form. All right, before we get into the last question, I think it is the hardest question in this entire exam. I'll probably answer if there's any questions. How quickly did I aim to finish exam? I'll normally finish it. Okay, depends on everyone, right? But I normally finish probably 10, 15 minutes before like first run through, and then I'll come back and check the asterisk questions.
Yeah, just with me and that maths, I aim for a minute per mark with all my maths exams. So 40 minutes for exam 1.
Confident intervals and something. So I guess that constitutes for like quite a bit of marks. Not a lot, but it's not the most important in exam 2. But yeah, it's mainly sometimes it comes on exam 1 as well. But if I'll probably now go to question F. Okay, this should really be I think at least 3 to 4 mark question, but again, it's like a challenge extension. Right, so now we can write e to the power 3 plus 2x minus x squared plus 3 plus 2 e to the power of x minus e to the power of 2x equal to 0. Okay, that's not really solvable unless you're using a calculator, CAS, but of course you're not allowed to. Now, if you're like your brain just go completely like blank, then I think it's better if you come back and check your solutions, like the stuff that you've written, and give up on that mark, or just guess like 0 solutions or 1 solutions. But now in this case, you want to keep going. What I did is I first of all switch it to this equation. Okay, and then we know that the left-hand side is always greater than 0, right? So no solution will exist if right-hand side is less than 0. Okay, so step 1, no solution if right-hand side less than 0. So let's have a look at what interval would that be. E to the power of 2x minus 2ex minus 3, okay? And that equals e to the power of x minus 3 and plus 1. And we know that this is always greater than 0, right? I just need this to then be less than 0. Okay, so that will give me x is less than log E3. So what this is telling me is that for every x value below log E3, it's impossible to have a solution there. Okay, so no solution. I'll say it again in this interval. Now let's have a look at what happens if x is above log E3. So first of all, what's happening to this equation? Now, as x gets bigger and bigger, right, this will become a to the power of x, e to the power of x minus 2, minus 3, okay? So this will go to infinity, this will go to infinity, and we don't really care about the negative 3, okay? So the right-hand side will go to infinity. And what's gonna happen with the left-hand side? Well, e to the power of 3 plus 2x minus x squared. We know that for the power part, okay, this will get to negative infinity as x goes to positive infinity. So this goes to negative infinity as x goes to positive infinity, right? And now we can conclude that a3 plus 2x minus x squared would go to 0. Okay, so maybe you wanna you wanna try graph it, but of course this is not really graphable. This is log E3, right? One would go off to infinity and the other would, okay. So maybe now it's suffice to assume that there's gonna be one solution, okay? But nevertheless, it's possible that it might behave something like this, okay, just might. But we need to check for that now. But this will be the overall overall thought, or like thinking process of doing this question. Okay, check if it's purely increasing and decreasing over x between log E3 and infinity. Okay, we know that log E3 this can be a solution there. So for well, let's have a look at the right hand side. E to the power x, I'll write it a bit better. For e to the power of 2x minus 2 times e to the power of x minus 3. Well, the derivative of that, we have found in the previous question E, that there's only one stationary point at one stationary point at 0, 4. And of course, in this case, it will be negative 4, right? Because there's a negative sign. But the derivative should just really differ by a negative sign. And we don't really care. Okay, so as long as we know that, okay, this entire graph has only one stationary point at the location x equal to 0, and that would be enough, right? So now we can conclude this is just decreasing. It doesn't have like jump, it's not jumping up and down like that. Okay, now we need to make sure that the left-hand side need to check that the left-hand side is less than, or the derivative is purely decreasing. Okay, if it's not ever going up, then, well, there's only one solution, right? E3 plus 2x minus x squared. I think we computed the derivative for that in question B. And we know that the derivative for it less than 0 for what? For x is greater than 1. Okay, so log E3, is that greater than 1? That, in fact, is. Okay, so 1 equals log E, E, and E is less than 3. So now we concluded that, okay, this is also strictly decreasing, okay, or just decreasing. And this is decreasing. In the interval log E3 to infinity. All right, now we can assume it's quite a long question. One intersection point, so one solution. All right, yeah, again, that's definitely not just worth 1 mark. Okay, and every year, like in exam 1, they would have this 1 or 2 really hard questions. But yeah, I'll definitely say make sure you get the other marks, secure those first. Yeah, how is that 1 mark? Can't be 1 mark, right? Yeah. But also I'm writing a lot of like working out of like the thinking process in the page. But in maybe when you're actually doing the question, like all you need is just that 1 solution, and it's enough.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And with this question, it speaks to 2 important things. I think firstly that if it's worth 1 mark, you can get your other marks, which is fun. And also, usually with questions that are 1 or 2 marks, there sometimes is like a shortcut. Like you're meant to be able to see something from parts A, B, and C that help you. But sometimes when you don't spend too much time finding a shortcut. Just smash it out like Yichen did. And thank you so much for doing the entire exam.
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, I mean, this year with lockdown, right, it's really difficult for the year 12s, and hopefully this will help them in the exam preparation. And am I from Shanghai? No, I'm not. I'm from Fujian.
I'll just answer a few earlier questions and then we'll get to ones where we both answer. I think generally for a lot of people asking about SAC scaling and like the gap and stuff, the gap doesn't actually affect how your SAC scales, and it's more so if you miss an exam. And I think it helps scale your exams a little bit because of COVID. But SAC scaling in terms of like C plus scales to A plus whatever, I doubt it scales that much, but also it's not something I would care about. I don't know if Yichen like ever cared about it, but I feel like just knowing it doesn't help you at all. Like just because you know a 63 scales to a 75 at the end of the year, like that doesn't really help and doesn't change your preparation at all.
For part F, if you were to make an educated guess. Okay, so that's a good question. In fact, I'll write it. You're down. I'll write it in the page, the blank page next to it.
Sure.
All right. So again, copy this in. Now, when you're making these kind of guesses, right? Again, I would still convert it to this. 2e to the power of x, right? Minus 3. Look at what happened when they go to positive infinity. Okay, so this, what's going to happen when they go to positive infinity? And what happens as x goes to negative infinity? And also for this as well. Okay, for the right-hand side, as x gets to positive infinity, y goes to positive infinity, and negative infinity. Well, I think, yeah, it's negative 3. Yeah, negative 3. And for the left-hand side, x goes to infinity, well, y would go to 0, and this one, y would also, okay, it would also go to 0. But like this, I would probably, okay. Now think about what with the maximum vote, like part for this. Okay. Now it's gonna, for the left hand side, it's gonna go somewhere between 0 or above 0, right? And the right hand side, it goes from -3 to infinity. So there's at least 1. Okay, if you're not sure, just go with 1. And for 2, 3, and 4, and then I guess if it's just a guess, just like guess, go with 1. Physics, no shit. I think I lost it. I lost it.
Someone
But
asked,
I have a
oh my bad.
I have a template with like no equations on it because I wrote the equations just by myself, and then I only have answer to explain questions on there.
With someone asked a bit earlier, how did we deal with exam stress? Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, exams stress. Okay.
Yeah.
So honestly, for me, I'm not really that stressed before the exam because so in about like the 1 month into exam period, I was just coming to like school, doing exams with friends, and I actually love that vibe and atmosphere of, I don't know, we don't have to go to any class in school, and then we just chill around. I think that really helped me to relax. So the period where you don't have any class, and I use that well to like either ask teachers or don't make yourself too stressful, and to like aim to do 20 exam papers in a day, and that's not gonna make you perform that well. I don't know, at least for me.
For me, I was stressed for certain exams. I think English I was a little stressed for. I would say more so a bit excited as well because it's kind of your time to show off. And once I go in, it's sort of time to focus. I sort of say to myself that, by being stressed, I'm going to do worse. I'm just going to treat this and do everything that I normally do in terms of reading time, planning, writing time, depending on what the subject is. Because once you've done a lot of practice, you have a similar routine for all your exams. And once you get into it and you stick to it, then you should really stop thinking about too much outside stuff and be able to sort of forget that stress and just work at your exam.
Yeah, I think I was least stressful for chemistry because this was one of a subject that I knew I wasn't going to do well. It's going to be my point 2.
Did you get 40?
But yeah, I was quite confident in I got a 40.
Yeah, you told me you wanted to get above 40, I remember. Before the exam, you're like, I want to get above 40. I was like, all right.
Nah, I didn't know. Nah, I thought, yeah, I guess.
Someone asked also...
Oh, Darren, question for you, Monash.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Just someone asked, do you think 2021 will be as hard as 2020? So when I did the 2020 methods exam, I thought like this is very different to past exams. So I feel like the person who writes them has changed, and who will probably be he or she or they will probably be the person writing it this year as well. So we'll probably be in a similar style to 2020, as my guess. What do you think, Yichen?
Yeah, I think it'll be easier because the lockdown. I remember we were back to school, right, at the end of year term 3, were we? And now I think I don't even know if like the start of term 4 can get you out of lockdown. I'm not 100% sure about that. So, and especially this year, it's like has a lot of uncertainties, even comparing to last year. So I think, and the fact that I think sampling is not removed, right, for this year. So
nothing's removed.
Probably it'll be a bit easier.
With smiley faces. Oh, you wanted to continue?
Wait, what was the question?
I was going to answer the smiley faces question. What makes
smiley face?
Yeah,
which one was that?
The Monash one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I chose to study at Monash because at Monash their medicine course is straight in for 5 years, whereas at other unis like Melbourne Uni, they have a introductory biomed course which is 3 years, and then you do med for 4 years. So overall it's longer. And I didn't apply for any interstate unis that were similar to Monash in the medical sense because I didn't want to go interstate. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you avoid silly mistakes? That's okay. By the end of the year, at least for me, there's only 2 ways really for me to drop marks. One is silly mistakes, and the others are what I call it really hard questions. like question F here and like the domain question before. I would say those are really like the main points where you can drop your marks. And to avoid them, for the difficult questions, just do more practice. Like there's no way out, and you can actually afford to lose a bit, and you can see like just 1 mark, right? And for the silly mistakes, I think Darren has said in like in his videos as well. First of all, have your method of checking, right? You need to know when you come back to check for it, what do you need to do? Okay, do you solve the question again or submit different answers or whatever? Then I think for time management, you need to know how long you spend on every question and on the entire exam, or how like your normal timing for exam 1 and exam 2, like multiple choice as well, how long you spend on that. If you're in control, then that will likely to decrease your amount of silly mistakes.
If they wanted to,
what else?
if they wanted to contact you, Yichen, are you happy to, I don't know, leave a way of contacting you?
I don't know, my Instagram, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Just type it in the chat. I'll answer Zach's question as well. Silly mistakes, definitely develop strategies. A lot of the silly mistakes are common, and as long as you have a strategy to beat them, then that's good. So rereading the question is a really good one. Sort of like I said, when you need to label a lot of stuff, I like to tick it off at the end, and that really minimizes me making a mistake. With time, with any exam, you never want to not finish when you could finish. So it's okay, say you don't know how to do a question, that's fine. But you should be able to do everything you can with English, with methods, with Spech, with chemistry. You should know exactly exactly where you should be at what point in time. So for the English exam, say I spent about 50 minutes for the first section, an hour for the second section, an hour 10 for the last section. For maths, I spent a minute per mark, and so I knew exactly where I should be up to, and that's like a really good thing to make sure you don't suddenly realize you have so much left and very little time.
There's a question about physics. How do I understand content for physics and methods? Methods, I think, look at the proofs in front if you want to really, a lot of people don't. So if you want to really dig in and see like, okay, what's the underlying principle behind every formula, the integration even, like, and so on. Look at the look at the proof and then write that out yourself, and maybe I think you can get a better understanding. And for physics, I think chat to your teacher more, like about if any concept you're not 100% sure, like it's really important to talk to your teacher about it. Maybe spend an hour after school, or to really get that concept into your head. Not just memorizing formula, like that's not enough. You can't do very well in the explain part without actually knowing the concept.
I agree. I find that usually when I listen to a teacher explaining a new concept to me, like it needs to really pass the test in my head. And I think if it doesn't pass that test for you guys, don't just leave it and move on to the next thing. A good example is the binomial distribution we were going through. Like that formula, you might not understand it. Like your teacher tells you that's the formula and you're like, all right, like I just memorize it, I just apply it. Really think about why you have that at the front, because you're picking, 3 from 8 or 4 from 9. And then the next thing is the probability of success, and then the next thing is probability of failure. So once you've thoroughly digested it, that's when you know you've understood it. And applying to questions is always a good test as well. If you can apply it to different questions and get them right, then that means you've probably understood it well.
I don't know why there's a lot of physics questions.
50 physics.
Okay, so explanation questions to watch out for. Okay, so there are a couple that appears every year. For example, not every year, but quite often. For example, like the function of commutator and stuff like that. I think this just memorize the wording, right? Like memorize wording and at the same time understand what it's actually saying. Then that's helpful. But mainly watch out for if you see a new question, like what are you gonna do? And what my physics teacher told me is, it's good to have, first of all, equations. Have equations in your explain, in your answer, in your response, and accompany that by your words. Okay, so what this change would lead to something, what this another change will lead to something. So have equations and explanations at the same time, and mention certain theories. I think there's a question about like deducting marks, right, for having unnecessary theory. I think as long as if it's irrelevant, like totally irrelevant, but they might not care. But if it's a wrong theory, okay, when you're supposed to use this, but you use that, then they will probably deduct the mark. Or if like the theory name of what you said doesn't match to your explanation, or this contradiction in your response, and that's also potentially, I think, where you can get marks deducted. Nuances for modulus. Yeah, for the log one, yeah, a lot of people don't really pay attention to that. But I can't really think about a lot on top of my head. But just check the exam reports. There are a lot of, especially like the explanations right after. I think you would be helped a lot.
And make a logbook, I think, is quite important. So then like you can sort of refer back to it and you see, oh, these are all the ones where like misconceptions have happened. I don't know if these are what you're thinking of, but also like dividing by x, sometimes you lose solutions, and like multiplying by x. I think that's sort of like a small thing that they don't really talk about that much.
Okay, for show questions or explain questions, okay, they don't have a method, right? But they can have show questions in or proof, but not that often, I don't think. So one thing what I would say is, if you want to prove equality, you don't start with the equality. You start either from left side and prove it to the right side, or vice versa, from the right to the left. And just work your way through it, I guess. It comes up more often in Spec, I think.
Yeah, work from one side and get to the other side. You can't really like put your fingers in both sides because that's sort of like you know the result and it's less convincing. And also I'd say let the marks guide your approach a little bit as well. If it's like a show question and it's like 2 marks or 1 mark, then you can sometimes for the ones where it's like show that this no. Yeah, well look at the marks for how much maths you need. That can guide you as well.
So for show question, okay. Multiple choice for exam 2 first. So I also went to tutoring during high school, and what my tutor gave me, the advice that he gave is, in your reading time, you should really be able to solve, I think, 6 to 7 questions just in reading time. Okay. For the short answer part, have a look at them. Like have a feel of what they're about. Maybe read the concept, but don't spend too much time on it in reading time. So maybe 3-4 minutes at maximum, and spend the rest just on multiple choice. And you can often, so you know how like first questions are all like domain, period and range, stuff like that. Get that out of the way first, so you don't have to spend time for it. Because exam 2, it's really possible that you run out of time in the end. I think I did. This one question I couldn't do. I didn't understand what it is in the exam 2.
My special tutor was completely the opposite with Yichen's tutor. He said to me, in reading time, just look at extended response, basically. And if you have time, look at multiple choice. Because I think he felt that you really need time to understand the scenario and understand the questions. And so I did extended response first as well. I would say like I was a bit afraid of doing questions in my head because I felt like I might make a small mistake and stick with it. But there's just 2 approaches to consider.
Yeah, you can like try out both and see which one works you better.
Yeah, that's the best way. Just try out any tactic, anything you've heard. Just try it out. If it works for you, then great. If it doesn't, then you've learned that it doesn't.
Yeah. How many past exams right before the exam. I think I didn't do the 2019 one until like a day before.
Oh yeah, I think you told me.
I had to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were you trying to say?
No, I was saying you told me.
Darren?
I was saying, yeah, you told me.
Oh
that
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do it until like the last day or like the day before. But I don't think that's a good thing to do though.
I think we just spoke to that question, but about like short answer first and then MCQ. Just try out both approaches, see which one works for you. I would say like if
Yeah.
you're starting with MCQ first, then spend most of your reading time on MCQ. If you're starting with extended response first, then spend most of your reading time on extended response. But try out both approaches.
Okay, with CAS, not really widgets, but I know define every function in exam 2. Okay, so you must know all the commands like diff, integration, and stuff like that, and really use it as much as possible. Right? Like this is something that um, it's important as well.
Yeah, I didn't use shortcuts. I would say like from people who've gotten 50s, like Yichen and my other friends as well, they didn't really use shortcuts. Like yeah, it doesn't save like a ton of time, honestly.
Okay, so I think this question about coming from a quite average school, right? Like being afraid. I think as long as you put the effort in, the system of VCA is designed such that okay, everyone has a chance of getting a really high mark as long as you put your effort into the questions and like look at the exams. They're all online and available. If you do them, I think it's quite enough for 40 plus at least.
And I would say with anyone, I understand like there's always inequalities with what school you go to, what cohort you have, what subjects, what teachers, what situation you're in. I think when you get into that exam room, when you get into a SAC, when you get into something like VCE, you should really just focus on what you can do. You can't really control the other things. Just sit there, do the exam to the best of your ability, and like no one's gonna blame you for not being able to achieve something if you've done your best. And oftentimes you
Yeah.
can break through. Like don't think about when I went into the English exam, I wasn't like, like we're Scotch going to the English exam, we're going to do great. I was just focused on myself and writing 3 really good essays. So I don't really think about like external things like that. But I do understand your like apprehension and a bit of fear at maybe your school's not like a top school.
So how much time do I have for my VCA exam too? There was a probability question. I didn't really understand what the context of understand the context, but uh, I would say like half understanding it, and I didn't I actually I couldn't solve it because yeah, like understanding issues as well. But then it was not until like after my exam was taken, and then I was sitting on the table and then figure out a way to do it. But yeah, if you exclude that question, I think I probably have 10, 15, or 20 minutes left for exam 2. And that's about what the time left for when I was doing the practice as well.
For me, I was kind of thinking about a lot of the questions. Like I didn't really have a time where I said I finished. I did return back and look at a lot of questions because obviously I lost a lot more marks than Econ and I couldn't do a lot more questions. I did do that probability one and I think I did get it right. But like when you guys said, it's a really long question and it's very confusing. Like you need to work out what's what. But it was just a really long question. Yeah.
Okay, so did I use pencil or pen? Pencil always for math. I don't want to use pen. I just don't like it. Motivation. I think I told this to a lot of people. My motivation is not a bit toxic, right? I just want to beat everyone else and like be the best. But not saying this is the motivation that or something that the mentality that you should have coming to exams. But it's kind of I don't know work for me, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious what Echen's approach is, but for me, like I was kind of similar. So I wanted to get the top score in the state, and so I would think about that, and that would like motivate me at home when I'm studying, right? But when I like actually get into a SAC or an exam, I don't really think about that because it's a bit distracting. I don't know about you. Did you like think about getting like a 50 like during the methods exam?
Oh no, as long as I beat other people, then that's that's really all I was aiming for. but I didn't think about like 9.95 or 50s. Yeah.
So in the exam, I just focused on doing the questions. Honestly, I just tried to figure out the question in front of me.
What am I studying right now? So I'm studying at Melbourne University. So I'm planning to, in a Bachelor of Science, I want to do data science, so computer science-ish fields. When I get to third year, and yeah, first year it's really just like linear algebra, calculus, and I also do a bit of physics.
What scores did I get? Low key, my year 11 and year 12 results were very similar. I think I lost 1 more mark in year 12 than I did in year 11. But I think exam 1, I lost 2 marks both years. Exam 2, I think I lost 7 one year and 8 the other, or maybe 8 one year and 9 the other. So there is a bit of leeway for you still to get like a 46 like I did. But my ranking was also good. I was like ranked 4 or something.
Did I use notes as much in special methods? I did bring a lot of notes in, but I find them just sort of reassuring, like on your mentality, right? It's if you don't bring anything in, then like I would feel worried. But normally, yeah, normal case, you probably wouldn't need it. But yeah.
Yeah, notes wise, definitely.
I don't write notes for except for physics, like not for methods and special. But some people find it useful, so you can try that.
Yeah, with Jackson's point, you'll find that like a lot of people when they got close to the exam, they sort of panicked and they started stapling things to like their textbook and things like that. So I think it's good to have a notes as reassurance. And I also think notes, I had my front page was useful. I had all my silly mistakes there. And so I could refer back to it when I was like checking and if I had time. And I wrote notes for, I guess Yichen's like me in the sense that we didn't do many like year-long subjects in terms of like biology, where you're learning stuff throughout the year and it's really useful to have notes. For the math subjects, I sort of had tutors who had notes. And for English, it was like I just wrote essays and I would occasionally have like a quote bank or something, but nothing that looks like a proper set of notes, if you get what I'm saying.
Here's a question about uni. Do I have a big cohort? Yeah, Bachelor of Science is really very wide. So you can do like medicine related, physics, I don't know, chemistry, math, like environmental science, but literally everything about science you can do it there. Yeah, so it's quite a big cohort, and if you're not sure like what you want to do, and you're kind of determined, okay, I'm gonna do science related, then you can probably try it out. And there's a lot of majors in it that you don't have to pick until year 3, year 2, year 3. And yeah, I guess spend your first year exploring the different wide variety of subjects, and yeah, you can really determine after that.
Yeah, I've just pinned Yichen's Instagram in case you guys want to ask him anything. We might end this at I don't know if you're busy, but we can end this at 10.
10 past.
Yeah, sure, 10 past.
How many practice exams did I do? I think about 20 to 25.
Should you have a large or small amount of notes? Oh, I was answering the question before. You go.
Do I do them consistently throughout the year? Not really. Just like the last term, really.
With
if you do better in the exam than your sex, can that bump up your study score? I think rumor has it that it does. Yeah, and I think that's generally the case from at least what I've heard.
With the notes question, it really depends on you. Like, if you feel more comfortable with a large set of notes and you have a large set of notes that are useful, then go for it. It's legit like what notes you find useful. With the examined in Sachs thing, I'll actually give you an anecdote here. So this is for the English exam. So I got 57 for the English exam, and I got a 50, and I was ranked 2. I had a friend who scored a 49. He was ranked like in the 30s, and he got the same exam score as me. So if you're wondering whether your exam scores can bump that up, I think that's a pretty good example of yes. But once again, like, you just work on doing your best in the exams rather than thinking too much about having to drag up your SAC scores or anything like that.
checkpoints. I used a bit for chemistry.
See Jordan? Jordan's in the chat.
Yeah. Well, okay. Long time no see, Jordan. Yeah. All right. Coming back to answering questions. Checkpoints. I only use it for chemistry, and I have friends who use it for physics. Yeah. Okay. I think it helps you preparing for sex. And for example, probably I never tried the method one.
Checkpoints is quite good for chem, I think. I was talking to my teacher. For chem, the dude actually writes his own questions, and there's a good explanations and stuff. For methods and all that, and like special, I think they just pull old exam questions, so it's like a bit of a cop out, honestly.
Yeah, method. Two reference textbook questions. They are like really good, some of them, but of course you wouldn't have time to do all of it, and that would be exam questions.
For best shape formulas, just like
What does that mean?
the usual like area and like perimeters and stuff. I think just the normal ones like triangle, square, rectangle. I don't think there were any special formulas that I had to learn specifically for year 12, apart from volume of a sphere. But once again, I think that might be on the formula sheet actually. But the other ones are more like you've encountered them before.
Did I use a bound reference? Not really. I probably looked at it once during my exam 1 and 2.
Yeah, Sam. I looked at it like a
Did
couple
I?
times.
Roll? That's. Yeah, we had it for physics and chemistry, I think.
Yeah.
But I didn't use it much.
I think it's really useful if, say, your teacher isn't like that amazing. It's a good resource and it tests you and has decent practice exams. I guess me and Yichen and I went to like a good school, and I had a great chem teacher, which was the only thing we had Ed Rollo for. So I didn't really use it that much. I didn't use it at all, actually.
Bound reference not for exam 1. Don't think. Right. Who do I have for physics? I had Gray Room, I think the best one. It's good. Yeah, actually, I'll probably say one more thing about physics. So, physics is like something that you accumulate throughout the year. Okay, or the understanding for the concept you have, you build it up throughout the year, so that when it's the end of the year and you're coming back to revise work, you have that intuition for this concept, like that you accumulated throughout, and it's really to pick up the earlier concepts. So, yeah, I would, rather than emphasizing on the amount of questions or exams that you do from physics, it is really, really, really important to like actually understand what's like going on in each formula.
Well, yeah, when you understand something, when you get back to it, it's easier to like revisit that path. So when you first learned a concept, you probably asked yourself a lot of questions like, why is this true? How does it work? If you've answered them properly the first time through, even if you've forgotten them, when you relearn them, you sort of walk that same path again. How does this work? Why does it work? And you're reminded pretty easily of what you might have forgotten.
When did I sleep? Yeah, so like towards the end, it was like 12 to 1, I think.
Yeah, same for me, 12 to 1. I think I was thinking actually, the 2 times where I stayed up really late were actually the times where I did really badly. So my creative sack for English, I stayed up really late, a couple days beforehand, because it was like first big sack, and that was my worst English sack. So sleep is important.
Yeah. Was the lead up to finding my Econ. Oh yeah, I opened it up with some of my friends.
Yeah,
And,
Yichen, I just pop in here. Yichen has a legendary video of him getting his A-title,
oh nah.
which he will like remember for a very long time. It's very good. It's very like you can see the excitement, and I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a long story, but I don't think it's good to show it here.
No, I'm not gonna show it, but I'm just saying it's a very nice video.
James Kennedy. Oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't think that guy's at Scotch. I've never heard of his name. And someone else is doing general maths. A good idea. I assume that's further maths, and
Yeah.
or should you choose spec? That's a big What do you think, Yichen? That's pretty big, like different. They're two very different subjects.
Yeah, I think it depends what you're aiming at. If you're just doing a math subject or you think math is important, I think method then would suit you better. But further math is, I have friends who are really good at it and who is not doing as well in further comparing to method, and it scales down because further really tests how well like your consistency. I think how well are you in like not making mistakes, and method sort of you can make mistakes a tiny bit, but for further, yeah, you're really trying to like literally full mark the paper, and if you're not careful in this and that, like you drop marks.
So along
And
that
actually, yeah, I'll add one more about like if you're doing anything like science related or commerce, I think, then it's really important to do method.
Full mark the further maths exam. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to full mark both exams to get a 50.
Oh yeah, like say hi to Patel for me.
Yeah, Patel's legendary. He went on a Europe trip with me, and I think he was Yichen's methods
Oh really?
teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my mentor in year 12.
Oh really? He was your mentor?
Oh no, it's like metaphor.
Oh okay.
I have a really important question that what do I bring to you? Not really. Just like I don't know. It's something to take notes with, and then it's so good. I use an iPad to take notes.
This guy called
sometimes you need to print the stuff out.
This guy called us big fish in a small pond. It's pretty fun.
Talented or hardworking. No, I'm definitely more of the hardworking type, I think, because after I get into uni, it's like really so many smart people out there, and yeah, it's crazy.
I think we're both personally, because Yichen's in doing some very hard math courses, so obviously there would be like more talented people, but like still compared to like the general population. And also I think with talent and hard work, talent is like set, right? You can only change your talent, but hard work is kind of limitless, right? You can improve your hard work to like infinity if you like as a possibility. So one is more in your hands than the other. And what do I bring to uni? I bring. Well, we haven't been to uni much, honestly. My brain. I bring my laptop. I think that's about it, and like maybe a notebook and pen. But usually just my laptop's enough.
Uni is definitely not easier. I would say, in my opinion, it's very harsher than year 12. But it depends as well.
Yeah, if you're doing med, I think they really like take care of you. I think compared to other courses, we have like 6 lectures a week, which is a lot fewer than what I hear you guys have.
6 lectures a week. I had like 2 to 3 a day.
Yeah. How long are they each?
Like generally less than an hour. Yeah, it's aimed for like 50 minutes to 55 minutes, but some lectures will go below, and some lectures will go above.
Yeah, same length as mine then, but we have much fewer, and we don't have many classes as well, so it's relatively chill.
Programming language I'm learning. So first semester I did Python, and now I'm doing C. I don't think you learn SQL and Java until you don't really learn it, but it's used for like data in 2nd or 3rd year.
Well, have you mastered?
Actually, I want to talk about
Have you mastered Python like completely?
Nah. You can't master Python in 6 months. Like I don't know. A semester is like what 4 months. You can't. So I want to answer this. Like, what motivated me to remote learning? So remember last year it was like the middle-ish part of the year. Like we had to just stay at home. I think what motivated me is that okay, I could decide everything for myself, and I can like planning. Okay, when do I wake up? When do I go to sleep? And what work should I do today? And that really trains my what we call organizing skill, if you call that. And yeah, I think that helps me a lot in the end of year exam preparation.
For me, motivation and remote learning. I guess it was slightly different because, like, I knew I could do really well because I had good subjects, luckily, and I was doing well in those subjects. And so for me, it was like I just didn't really want to leave them to waste. I was like to myself, this is the only year when they get every single kid in Victoria to like do a test, and they rank you in that. So I was like, all right, let's see how well I can do. I've got a really good starting platform with subjects that scale a lot and I enjoy. And so let's just see how well I can do. So that motivated me. But I think in general, like just find fun things just to get you through the week even. Like talk with your friends and stuff and um set up things that are enjoyable. And really this is your last like high pressure year. Like in uni, there's not so much pressure to do extremely well. Whereas this year you might want to hit a prerequisite and in general VC is just perceived as like the final hurdle in high school.
Am I still going to badminton, or if you guys still love me, then I'll go as a coach?
Someone asked above strict parents and pressure.
Because I don't
And
think
pressure.
year 12 I was just me like managing my own time and everything. Yeah, they just sort of let me do my things.
For me, my parents are pretty good. Like sometimes my mom would just remind me when she felt that like I would regret not doing stuff. So she'd just be like Darren, hey, and then I'd go like study. But it was like they just didn't want to see me waste my potential. So it wasn't strict. They were just very supportive and they just didn't want to see me like be disappointed at the end of the year. And usually like you have things you want to do. So I wanted to do well. I wanted to like say come first in the state. But sometimes that's not like you can't have that mentality.
The tough of state, mate.
You can't have that mentality like 24/7. Right? Sometimes you do get tired and stuff, and you need people to remind you and to support you in those times.
Tutors. I had tutors. I think yeah, you found a good tutor. I don't think it'll definitely help you, but not uh making you from I don't know the D student to an A student. It'll make you from like I don't know B to A or A to A plus. Yeah.
With a tutor, you have to soak everything in. So you're going to them for help. Have things that you actually need help with. And when they give you advice, like take it, like improve and stuff. You got to really make use of them. Just being there for that 1 hour is not enough. It's like you really need to take the information that they give you and make it your own. And with Ace's question, is there going to be another one of these sessions? So I'm planning to do more sessions, like for different subjects as well. So English is definitely one I'm going to do. Spech, probably. I haven't considered other ones. And if you guys like Yichen, like I can bring Yichen back just for like a general studies chat or something.
I don't know.
If Yichen's happy
to. Answer questions.
Yeah. So at the end of the year, or just any time, I'd be happy to organize one with Yichen if we're both free.
Yeah. Well, aspect of uni life. Actually, I enjoy talking about uni. Yeah, you're like, it's literally you can choose the time, especially in this like online environment where everything's like recorded lectures. You can choose when you want to go to uni and when to attend the class. Like you pick them yourself, and when to like I don't know hang out with friends and so on. Yeah, I think the part of being free and do whatever you want to do. But also at the same time, you need to be able to like organize your time, and yeah, I think that's probably the most enjoyable.
Yichen, you're in very high demand.
Well, exam 2.
Exam 2, physics.
Exam 2, physics. Physics doesn't have exam 2, but physics. Oh, actually, the thing with physics is we didn't go through. I think like some of the contents that are removed last year, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to. So I can probably go through 2020, but
Yeah.
Darren, this is you, English language, mate.
Yeah, English language. I don't know anyone who got a 50. I'm not sure. So I'll definitely be like on it. I'll be doing it. And likely I'll just have someone else on. I haven't decided who yet. There were a couple of early questions we missed. What was it? Dr. He? I didn't go to Dr. He. I've heard of him though. Yeah, tutors. We talked about that. Yeah, the study the language
Oh,
part. Yichen. You see Kane's
study a
question.
language. Wait, which question is it?
It's above the uni question, above the uni life one. So Kane Harrison, the brown one.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So I did Chinese second language advanced. I would say this is gives me the worst. I feel so bad. I feel bad for saying this, but it gives me the worst experience. Yeah, and I didn't get a good score in it. Like for Chem, like I know it's gonna be my bottom two, so I kind of I was happy about it at least. But then yeah, Chinese I spent so much effort into it, and like going to tutor and stuff, and didn't do as well as I've expected.
Language wise, I studied Chinese and Latin. Feel free to like DM any of us questions with the language because languages is a lot of aspects with
Yeah.
it.
I
how do
want to talk about actually. Yeah, do you want to finish this whole question on it?
Yeah, sure. With how did you prepare? I definitely like working on each section, like specifically improving each section. Just improving everything as a whole is a very hard thing to do. The way you do it is by improving your reading comprehension, increasing your vocab, working on your writing structure, preparing your oral, and then they all come together at the very end. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, so this question about studying overseas, I did apply overseas to the UK. But the problem is I applied in like late year 12, so there wasn't enough time for me to write the letter and everything, and I didn't get in eventually. But yeah, if this is something that you want to do, make sure you do it. Like prepare it early. Don't leave it to the last couple of months. You really have to start preparing, like by latest the start of year 12. Okay, it's good if you have some preparation beforehand, and yeah, it's that would be my response to that question.
I was really eager to go overseas as well because I just felt like, you'd meet like smarter people there and whatever. But I feel like in uni, I feel like I'm quite happy with the way it is now. I was a bit discontent at the start of the year, but I think now I just sort of like, I can do big things in Australia. I can just study medicine well, which is firstly important. I can, do YouTube and start things in Australia. And overseas, slightly, some places slightly overrated. I won't say which places, but I've sort of learned that like Melbourne's a really nice place to stay as well.
Yeah, big fish in small pond there.
Big fish in this. I can't believe they said that. That's so funny.
Did I do the SAT? No, I didn't. I wasn't going to the US.
My
A
friend,
couple of my friends did it.
yeah, my friend Max has a YouTube channel called Max Fang. He did the SAT. He got 1590, which is like an absurdly high score. We both tutor, but I don't know if you're full, Yichen. I'm pretty full tutoring wise.
I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah. I'm with Lucia. For me, what aspect of uni life? I like the freedom. Like I don't think I studied today, like any uni stuff. I had tutoring, and then I was relaxing, and then I had this YouTube. And so there's no, after year 11 and 12, I don't have to like study every day. I can do things that outside of that I also enjoy. And this is going to be posted later for Jackson. Yichen, your time to shine. This person, Zach asked, Yichen, what were your study scores? So hit me with them.
Study scores. So I did EAL 46, method 50, physics 50, spec 47, and then Chem 40 and Chinese SLA 38.
The way you said that, yeah. 250s, 47 spec, 46 EAO. Very impressive resume.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about it. Nah, I don't have a reaction. Nah, not that.
It's quite a personal thing. I guess between us friends, it's very fun to watch, very enjoyable. But I mean, maybe in the future, Yichen's like really famous or something. It could be one of those leaked videos on like YouTube.
Oh no, no.
Yeah, so Max
Oh,
Fang
hi,
equals
Neil.
Max Fang equals Bill Gates then, I guess. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it was an insane score, and I think it was his first go as well. Sitting the SAT.
Ask for his signature now. He might not have the chance to get it later.
Do you plan to ever use Latin ever again, or do you just do it for the 21 scaling? Firstly, it does not scale 21. If it scaled 21, I'm pretty sure the whole state would be doing it. I plan to use Latin again. I am tutoring Latin at the moment. I really wanted to, and recently I picked up some students who are learning Latin. It's just incredibly enjoyable translation because I'm translating stuff that Julius Caesar said. Like he directly wrote this, and now I can translate it, and I think it doesn't get much cooler than that.
Neil might.
Was Neil in your physics class?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. He's my tutor.
He's in your tude. Oh, at
tutorial.
uni. Oh, okay.
It's the same thing. Like, what's Code Force?
Probably some kind of coding competition, I think.
I'm bad at coding. I'm not that good. What do I tutor? I tutor math and bit of physics.
I tutor English language, like younger people,
Yeah.
public speaking, debating, English, maths, that kind of thing, and Latin.
What's ICPC? I don't know what that is.
Is FOA Foundations of Algebra or something? Or arithmetic or something?
Oh, it's algorithm.
Oh, algorithm.
No, I haven't started that. Simon's got a couple of mid-semester tests coming up.
Oh.
Turing make me rich. Well, I guess it builds on the basis of your academic skill. Like if you're good, then people come to you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you can
study hard in year 12.
You can definitely earn a lot of money from tutoring. How long do you usually get for your assignments?
What do you mean? How long do I?
Like
a couple of 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. Actually, a bit more than that. 2 weeks.
Do they care if you do it with other people, or do they discourage it?
What do you mean? Wait, what? What's the question?
Like, are they okay if you say like check it with like Gordon or something, or with Neil or something, or do they not like you?
Oh, nah. I don't think you can like discuss about it. I think, but you can't share thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Darren, you can get Neil to do the physics exam.
What did Neil get for physics?
You gotta ask him.
Neil, what did you get for physics? Don't be shy. Is who else is in your Neil Kluko, is he in that as well? That little guy.
He's in the cohort, but he's not in my class.
Oh, okay. So Neil's actually in your class.
Yeah, like tutorial.
For me,
most interesting. Yeah, you can answer it first.
For me, most interesting uni subject. We don't get to pick our subjects, by the way. But for me, the most interesting one's probably anatomy. For me, because we're learning
anatomy.
We're learning all the bones, muscles, arteries, veins, nerves in the lower half of your body now. So we did all the shoulders and stuff, and I think it's cool because I can like look at you and see stuff. And like, I watched a show recently, a medical show, and they had like the dude didn't have feeling in like this part of his arm, and I guessed, I was like, oh, it's probably median nerve. And then the person in the TV show was like, it's median nerve, and I was like, I felt really good after that. It's like anatomy's paying off.
So for me, the most interesting uni subject, if you do Melbourne Uni and you're in the Bachelor of Science, this subject called accelerated math. So yeah, it's quite So they go through content really, really fast. And yeah, this is a place where I met like tons of really, really smart, way smarter than me people, and yes, and really competitive as well. So, but nevertheless, yeah, it's AM2. I'm doing AM2 right now, but it's giving me a lot of pain.
Oh,
But nevertheless, it's quite interesting.
Is Mojo Nick Wang? Is Mojo Nick Wang? Is that why Neil said that? Might be. That's pretty cool.
What? No, I don't know.
How many students do you... I tutor like 9, I think.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
How many times a week do you have class? I have class every day, sometimes not on Wednesdays. But like when I say class, it's usually like 2 hours or 4 hours. It is not that long. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe on average like 3 hours, 3.5 hours over like on each of those 4 days.
Is there a specific subject you need to do, or you find a pattern in people doing? Not really. It's just math method special.
That's a pattern. I mean,
no, even like that's a prereq. And apart from that, like some people do EL, some people do English, some people do physics, chem, some people do like accounting.
Yeah, usually there is a general trend. Like I did a video on types of VC students, which I thought was quite funny and quite true. But there are quite classic subjects. Like there are definitely, you can group people by their subjects a lot of the time. And I think this year at Scotch, there were a lot of kids who were doing Latin and Spech. And who did methods last year. So it's a, like those guys would do really well and they're smart as well. But definitely it's not a necessity. So we had kids who didn't do a language who got 99.95. Like work at your strengths. Don't really complain if you don't have massive scaling subjects. Just work hard at them. Like Yichen didn't have a ton either. He just had Spech basically, and he still scored a very perfect ATAR.
Yeah.
Favorite NBA player, Yichen?
Favorite NBA? You can't answer that for me. Everyone knows my favorite NBA player.
Isaiah Thomas. No, James Harden. James Harden.
Oh
James Harden.
Okay.
I like I don't know. I like players who are really clutch, but not many players have been clutch recently. Like I thought Devin Booker was clutch, and then he like lost. So
yeah.
I know Jimmy Butler's alright. And yeah, Devin Booker.
Other anime. I don't watch anime that often.
Bro, who commented in my thing? Oh my goodness, I'm gonna remove this. Can you see it? The last one.
Yeah.
The webcams thing.
Alright, you can report.
Nah, just remove. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Although it is obvious that you watch Perudo. What kind of a comment is that? It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't watch that. I'm not like I don't watch it regularly because sometimes when I'm bored.
Oh, do you actually watch Boruto?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, with Econ.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, you can answer that.
You can definitely get into Melbourne. I'm not sure what prereq you're looking at in terms of ATAR, but like, basically with any subject, it only kind of matters at the top end. Like it kind of limits you a bit, say 99.85 to 99.95. But I think if you're good at the subjects, you do well. You can really have a really good chance of getting any score that's, still really high. Were you going to speak to that as well?
Oh, I think you answered basically what I want to say.
I think we'll end it at 10:30 then, if there are not many more questions by 10:30.
Yeah, I think. Nice game. I guess it's Darren's camera.
Yeah, I don't have
It-
that nice.
It's the camera.
Like my skin's pretty like it's just normal, and I have like acne and stuff. But I guess zoom camera, very low resolution. Is salary main motivation? No, definitely not. Like if you look at the life of a doctor, I think salary is not. If your salary is your main motivation, you're going to be in a world of pain. I don't know what Yichen's occupation is. What are you like looking into?
I don't know, software engineer, I guess. But data scientist. I think I'm a bit too naive to say that right now.
No, that's fine. This is Yichen, data scientist. At the computer all day. No, but
How
thank
many
you.
energy drinks?
But thank you for complimenting our skin. But yeah, you go, Yichen.
I don't study that late, right? Like some people will go to like 2 or 3, but I just stop after 12, I think. And yeah, it's not as long as you get used to it, then it's not that time.
I would warn against sort of artificially keeping yourself awake. Firstly, it's not necessary, and secondly, there's sort of a bad culture around it. It's like, I'm going to grind tonight and drink like 200 energy drinks and stay up till like pull an all-nighter or whatever.
Yeah, that's bad.
Just like work an hour a day and you'll get much further. And Ace, do you actually get an A plus English average this year? That'd be really amazing if you improve that much.
Like how many hours? Right? Really depends. Like I said, I spend like my year 12 is me planning my time. Okay, what should I study? Study until it's enough for you, I think.
Wait, how did you study?
Yeah, as long as
How did you study in terms of time? I'm curious. Did you like continuously study? Did you have a timer? How did you arrange that time wise?
it's really just when I feel like it. To write an essay or what, and do a bit of math textbook exercises. Yeah, it's pretty chill, I think.
Same for me, honestly. I sort of when I feel like it, I work. When I'm tired, I like stop for a bit and then I sort of go back when I feel like it again.
I think my physics teacher told me like anything after 10 is useless. But I'll probably change that to like anything after 1 is useless. Oh, I'm like still studying until 12 to 1, like for uni as well. It's
Damn. Well, what do you
really
like,
hard for me.
how do you like study maths? I don't even remember. Like, do you do a lot of do you get like textbook questions or something in uni?
Yeah, I just write the textbook questions, answer them.
Oh, okay. Dana, good luck for your comparative stack. I actually have a video on comparative.
Yeah.
I'm planning to release on Wednesday because I usually release I try and release like twice a week. On Wednesday, but I don't know whether your stack's before then. But definitely good luck for it. Smash it. Probably it's your last stack, so smash it.
Sleeping from 4 to 9. I saw a YouTuber who like sleeps at 10. I think wakes up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and study. Do I buy textbooks in uni? No, that's a scam. Like, look, ask like people who studied the subject before, and I just ask for like a photocopy, or just use the notes in lecture they're given. I think it's enough.
That's pretty funny, Lucia. Yeah, I guess if you studied till 4 and then you slept for 15 hours, when you wake up, it's like dark. So it's probably a very weird experience. Do I still study very hard? Not really. I think for med, like, I don't feel like it's terribly hard. There's just quite a bit, and you just got to revise it constantly. And as long as you stay on top of it and revise it constantly, like it's fine. Because I'm not aiming for say like a perfect score. Not aiming in the sense that I'm not like, how do you say it? If I got a choice between like 70 practice exams and 100, I'd do 70 because I save more time, and the difference result might be like 1 mark or something in the exam.
Yeah, Darren, I guess you need to release more videos now. It's helping a lot of people.
That's so cool. My stack is Friday. Oh, you got the highest score in the practice stack? Nice. That's very impressive, and I'm really glad that I helped you with that. Some people in med told me they showed my video to their students, and I was like really happy. I was like, yay.
For the medical, I can't really answer on that, but
I think it's
for,
a bit. You wanted to go for that?
Yeah, you can answer. No, you can answer the.
I think that's sad, and like I understand that they probably have their reasons for quitting and that. I just think it's a very sad thing. I definitely think if they want to do it, they should still do it. Like they should do the UCAT, prep for the UCAT, try and get like a decent ATAR, because how do I say it? I saw a quote somewhere. It's like the only thing worse than failure, or if there is a thing worse than failure, it's regret. So you just try and get in, and if you don't get in, oh well. But like, why would you give up? I don't think because you have to get a good ATAR anyway, so you may as well practice hard. And there are like a ton of pathways into med. So if you do persist, it just takes time and money because you have to pay for uni, but you can get into medical school. But I do understand it's very hard for some people. Did you take notes for methods, Yichen?
So my method teacher just gave me the notes, and I'll take notes on it. Like it's like, yeah, just yeah, not necessarily. So like all the formulas are written on it, and I kind of know them beforehand already. For method, I think it's mainly about practicing it, doing a lot of questions. That's sort of the main thing. And like I said, like check them, have ways of checking and stuff.
Yeah, for maths, there's much less to remember because it's not like you have to remember keywords that you have to use or a specific explanation. You just need to remember like how to do a question, and you can just do it a ton of times. With your comparative stack, you feel like you're overthinking it. Yeah, just pace it back a bit. The way to do well in English, I've always said, is to be very clear with your writing, and especially for comparative, your ideas should be very simple because you don't have enough time to like explore a bunch of complex stuff. It can even just be setting the scene, and as long as you describe it well and your things are logical, then you can do well. I understand you're stressful, but good luck for it. Oh, your comparatives essays on Wednesday. Maybe I should release the video earlier. But I'll see. Yeah, try not to overthink it. And just try and explain things well on the day, and everything else will take care of itself.
So this one about dealing with a very ordinary teacher. So my experiences are, first of all, I think my teachers are really good. Like all my teachers, like even like chemistry as well. Like they are really really good teachers.
What about Chinese?
No, I'm just no comment.
No comment. I agree.
But but if you see if you think your teacher's not that good, at least I think there should be some teacher like in your school that's better. You can ask for their help, or I know build up a good relationship with them and ask for their help. And I think most of the teachers in your school, yeah, if they're good, they would love to help you, even if you're not in their class.
Yeah, I can't. If your friends are, giving up in medical school, you can tell them to flick me a message. I'll be happy to reply and talk to them more about, the medical pathway, and I'd be happy to, guide them a bit if they have questions on that. And thanks for joining, Mojo. I heard you're a second year student, but really thanks for joining this stream. I don't know who those guys are, Yichen. Do you know?
Yeah, like the first person is like, do you know 杂交水稻? Do you know what that is?
Like a canal.
No, it's like no. It's like wheat.
Okay.
Anyways, but yeah, and the second guy is like a physicist who invented, I think, I don't know, but like really famous people.
So what did the first guy do? He invented wheat, or like how to like.
You can search it up. Google it, Darren.
This is what he means by bad teachers, Yichen. You're a bad teacher.
That's not my area of expertise.
Fair enough. I never studied actually in maths, because of tutoring, I naturally studied ahead of class. Oh, with the ordinary teacher part, it's sort of nothing you can control, honestly. So you can either go to another teacher, but sometimes your teachers get cranky and they might mark your sacks down, and yeah, it's a bit ugly business.
Nah, I don't think like teachers are adult. They don't do that.
I've had teachers who got mad
Most of them.
because I asked another teacher, but rarely, yeah. But I'd say focus on doing the best yourself and working with your friends, maybe in other classes as well. Yeah,
My
can't.
favorite physicist.
You go.
Oh, Darren, you're gonna answer something?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say
my favorite physicist.
You go.
I can't really think one on top of my head, but I can certainly give you a lot that gave me a pain, like either high school or uni. Like a lot of people.
I can't. I was gonna say yeah, they can message me. I think that's what you're indicating, right? Me saying like you can get your friends to message me. I'd be happy to talk to them. Jackson, with the types of text they give in English language, yeah, but I wouldn't bet on it. Like once again, these are things you sort of speculate at for fun, but it's not that helpful. I think it was I had a feeling it was gonna be formal written, or at least formal in last year's exam, and it was, which was lucky because that was our SAC one as well. I forgot why I thought that was, but there was a pattern that I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know like specifically what he invents, but like I think a way of planting it.
Yeah, that sounds
But
right.
yeah, if you're interested, you can search it out.
All right, if there's no more questions, I ended at 10:40 then. Yeah. But yeah.
I like how we're just like pushing it back every time.
So there's a ton of questions. Yeah. Anyway, before it gets to 10:40, just thank you very much for joining me, Yichen, and
Yeah.
doing the whole
And
exam.
hopefully, yeah, this run through helps. And yeah, if we are both free, we can maybe drop in for some study sessions
Yeah, definitely.
in the future. And good luck with all the other like I know English run throughs and stuff. You're really helping a lot of year 12 this year, Darren.
That's great. Thanks,
A
Yichen.
good role model.
I appreciate it. I might do like a poll at the end of my series. I have like Alex Fan, Yichen, Gordon, and then they can vote on their favorite person. No, I'm joking.
Oh shit.
Don't worry. Yeah, no worries, guys. Yeah, special exam. I will, like, unless something happens, I am planning to do one.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining.
Well, Alan can do the special one, I think.
Alan can show off his Chinese oral skills.
Yeah.
No worries at all, guys. And make sure to tell your friends to join as well. I'd like to help as many people as possible. Like, I'm not gonna hold lectures where I make you pay to like join. I think this is quite nice, and yeah, try and get the word out as well. Bless up, Yichen. All right, thank you very much. Then, Emil, I don't know when the collab is or what it's gonna be, but I'd be happy to if he has some ideas. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Yichen, for joining me.
Nah, no worries. It's my pleasure to be in a great Darren Tan's YouTube stream.
All right. Thank you very much. I will see you later.
All right. Yep.
Bye bye. See you, everyone.